Welcome back to the JCPod, partner with Stare Down Sports, Stare Down Greatness. And I want to give a quick round of applause to the football weekend that was. We had a banger games from Thursday to Friday to Saturday to Sunday. And after Sunday night, they got a little bit shaky. But up to that point, amazing games throughout. So we got a decent amount to talk about when it comes to the NFL Wildcard Weekend. And some college football to talk about as well, as we are officially down to one final game in college, which... crazy to think about. That does not feel real at all. NFL-wise, we still got a couple more left, but, I mean, we're definitely in the single digits. Kind of want to shed a tear. But Wildcard Weekend, like I said, it was an amazing weekend, so we'll kind of go over that, go over some of the news that has happened as well in the NFL world. And then after that, we'll go over college football a little bit, talk about what's happening there as we officially head to the National Championship. And... next time you see me a week from today on Tuesday, well, I mean, I'll be here Thursday, obviously, or Wednesday show, but for next Tuesday's show, that's going to be the last time we talk about college football games for the rest of the season until next year. Hard to believe that's time, but yeah, let's go over Wildcard Weekend, talk about some of the games, talk about some of the fallout that's happened, because we have gotten some insane fallout from these games. And it started off with Saturday. First off, we're going to get into college in a minute, but Thursday and Friday. I mean, I guess like the Friday game for college football was a complete blowout. But if you look at it from the aspect of IU's never been there before, this is the team trying to make history. And we'll talk about it in the game. There was just some moments that truly made that game exciting even for a blowout. But like I said, it was an amazing weekend. And the first NFL game we get, the Rams went 34-31 in an absolute thriller that for majority of the game, you're actually sitting there like, wait, so this Panthers team that backed themselves into the playoffs, they're about to be one of the best teams remaining in the league. This is actually about to happen. And that is a good thought you have for majority of the game. I mean, it's 17-14 at halftime. Like, this was a close game throughout the whole game. The Panthers even took leads at certain points, and you're sitting there like, oh, shit, they might actually do it. I'll admit, Bryce Young didn't look amazing, but he did have some good moments. Shout out to Jalen Coker, man. He truly did absolutely ball out for them. I think he had, I believe in his draft class, which I think he was 2024, I think he had some of the most receiving yards of the weekend. I mean, 9 receptions for 134 and 1 touchdown. He truly came to play. Puka Nacua had 10 for 111 and 1, so, I mean... absolutely showing up from them boys. Chuba Hubbard seemed to get a lot of work during this game. Rico Dowdle did not get used too much at all, which kind of goes to show you that I think he also came out and said, I think he's leaning towards leaving, and it seems like the Panthers are going to go another way when it comes to running backs. I mean, shout out to Chuba Hubbard. He's able to find it a little bit later on, but there was truly a couple weeks there where Rico Dowdle looked like, oh shit, he's going to steal the job, but ended up not. Sorry about that. I just got a notification from just people I'm following, and it sounds like around 2 o'clock we're going to get some massive NFL news, so I'm going to keep an eye out for that. So if I stall in some of my thoughts here and there, just know I'm occasionally scanning and reading to see if I see what the big news is. But we've had some firings with some of these teams, but not with the Panthers. Like I said, this Panthers-Rams game, to get back on topic, absolutely banger of a game. It comes down to 2 minutes, 39 seconds left, Panthers score a touchdown, and all of a sudden, it's like, all right, the Rams have to go down and do it. If they have to go down on the road and have a game-winning drive if they want to win it, and what do? Do just exactly that with an awesome touchdown catch, by Colby Parkinson. 24-42, 304, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Not the best game from Matt Stafford. He started out hot, and then he had a 3-for-18 stretch during the game where he just did not look like himself. And during a lot of that stretch was when the Panthers were able to do stuff. I mean, this was a good football game. Like I said, the Panthers, for backing themselves into the playoffs, it did kind of prove something. It seems like they're actually building towards something. Biggest question I think going for them is after they add some pieces, obviously, is the Bryce Young thing, man. I don't know. He has flashes where he's really good, and there's some moments where it's really bad. This team, like, they were 8-0. I think 8-0 after a loss this season, 8-0 against the spread after a loss this season. All of their wins were after losses. So basically, after they lost games, they were able to bounce back. They were never able to have any consistency. But this is a team we talked about at the beginning of the year. We're building into next year. They passed where I thought they were going to be this year. So now it's one of those things where it's like, hey, they might have a chance next year, because if they're able to put this performance up against the Rams, which also a little bit concerning about the Rams DB is how some of that coverage was going. But regardless, Rams were able to get a massive, massive win for them, which now moving forward, they're going to play the next team we're going to talk about, Bears-Packers. Bears win that game, which we'll get into it a little bit more. They win 27-31, but yeah, that's going to be a really, really tough game for the Rams now because they're going to Chicago, so it's going to be really, really cold. But, man, that was just a fun game. I think a lot of us going into this game, too, didn't think the Rams were going to cover the 10.5. Felt like that was just a bit too big of a spread. I mean, I could be totally wrong about that, but I was definitely really nervous about taking it just because of how massive the spread was. But then you look at it, and obviously looking at it in hindsight, you're going to make that decision for sure, too. But I didn't think the Panthers were going to play them that close, I'll admit. That was a little bit like, if you guys were one or two bounces away from actually getting knocked out by the Panthers, which is a crazy thought to think about. But one final thought I do want to leave with is I thought the environment for this game was awesome. Everything about it, bringing Cam Newton back was cool. The light show, the scenery from everything, it was, I don't know why I said light show. It was in the middle of the day. But it was a really, truly awesome scene. And for Carolina, there's some hope, man. Because at the end of, I think it was the end of 2 seasons ago. I mean, they had like 2 fans in the stadiums. You could buy tickets for $1. It was pouring down rain. Nobody was there. It was completely empty. And now they're a team that could win the NFC South if it's going to be as poopy as it was this year. And then some fallout from what happened with them. The Panthers picked up Bryce Young's 5th-year option so that they're keeping him at least till 2027. So that kind of goes to say, hey, they're at least going to use him next year. I'm very curious to see. Jonathan Brooks might be coming back soon, too, which is going to be very fascinating. Because that also could be a reason why they let kind of Rico Dowdle go is because they paid Chuba Hubbard. They have Jordan Brooks in the tank, which is like, hey, let's see what he's got. And if he doesn't have it, we at least still have Chuba under contract. So that's going to be very fascinating. Looking forward to. And we'll get into the Rams a little bit later when we go on to talk about their matchup with the team we're going to talk about next, the Chicago Bears. Going to the halftime, this game is 21-3. I'm sitting here like, okay, this is why I picked the Packers. This is what they should have done from all the other games. They should have done this in the last game, too, where they had the comeback happen. Like, they should have just beat them down early, get them out of there. Don't even have to worry about it. And I won't even lie to you. I was fighting sleep. I took a 15-minute nap during halftime. Got back up for the start of the second half. I was sitting there like, hey, maybe I just go to bed early. Like, this might be a game that it's going to be. It's already kind of over. Maybe we just go to bed, but I did not. We just sat and held firm, and sure enough, the Boot and Rally Bears make another comeback. I don't know what the exact stat is. It's I don't know, like point-wise, I don't know if it's 18 points. I don't know if it's like 15 points, but I think the Bears are like 3-3 and trailing in the fourth quarter by a certain amount of points, and the rest of the league's like 3-152. Like, this is you want to talk about belief, man. This Bears team was just able to absolutely rally. Caleb's had some of the dumbest throws I've ever seen. Like that one throw that's going viral of the 4th down where he's basically almost in the air when he throws, and it's just a perfect throw. That's the stuff when you watch him in college, you're like, okay, yeah, he's going to be a guy. It's just the biggest thing has been like in rhythm. It throws in rhythm, staying in the pocket, kind of just progressing. And I'll admit, he has progressed a lot. It's starting to get to that point where it's like, he might actually be really, really good. Because I won't lie to you, part of me, just because they're the Bears, you're immediately like, okay, let's see how they're going to screw up this quarterback situation. Let's see if Caleb's actually a guy or not. And sure enough, it's like, oh, he's pretty damn good. Another guy's pretty damn good, Colston Loveland. He's just been balling out down the stretch. And it seems like he's going to be a great pickup for them. Offensively, they ran the ball pretty well as well against the Packers. I mean, it wasn't anything amazing, but they were able to do decent work on the ground. DeAndre Swift scored a touchdown as well, but I don't know. Like, I want to give the Bears credit because it does take a lot to rally back from that and beat. Indeed, they officially have the Packers number 2 at this point. You got to think, right? But you look at the Packers, man. It's like another heartbreaking loss for them. This game was a soul snatcher. The biggest thing for the Packers is they just had a bunch of stretches where, especially in the middle, like in the second half, when the Bears were starting to make their comeback, they just looked bad. They had some really questionable decisions. Like, there's just some things. It was 3rd and 1. I think they had a completion to Romeo Dobbs, but you missed that. You throw a deep ball in 3rd and 1. You got to kind of wonder, like, why don't you just get the first down there? So there's some Jordan Love stuff that you kind of wonder, is it the play calling or is it just his decision making where it's just, they do some really weird stuff where it's like they should have made the Bears burn more timeouts than they did. They don't do that. I mean, to begin with, first off, their kicker missed 2 field goals and an extra point. That's not going to help you win any games at all because you should have been up 34-31 where none of this should have even happened. But regardless, that doesn't happen because you have the kicking mishaps. And then, like I said, really, really weird stuff when it comes to their offense. But I think the biggest thing that became a huge issue was Bears call timeout. Packers go to the sideline. They break the huddle with 19 seconds left after the timeout. Gets the line. Jordan Love tries to make a change with under 10 seconds to go. They aren't able to make the change. Packers have to waste a timeout. So it's like, all right, hold up. So we just had the Bears call timeout. You had all that time to decide to play and everything. You decided to make a play call really, really late. And then you have to waste one of your own timeouts, which also led to, I think, the missed field goal at this point. Or if he did make the field goal, it moved it up to 6. So even a touchdown still beat them. But there's just a lot of questionable decisions you look at. And it's like, why in the hell would you do that? And then sure enough, like I said, the Bears are just able to make another magical comeback. They scored 14 points unanswered to end the game to end up winning it. When Golden had a... Sorry, I've totally spaced. It's Matthew Golden. I about said Marcus Golden. I don't know why I spaced it that bad, but Matthew Golden had a really big touchdown where you look at that when you looked at that play and you're like, okay, so that's probably the play that wins the game for the Packers, right? And then that fourth down happens, like I said, with Roman Dudesday, where Caleb Williams just hits him on that throw. It's like, okay, so this game might be... Those were the two moments where I think either way, it's like, when the Golden thing happens, it's like, all right, the Packers winning this game. And then obviously when that Caleb thing happens, like, oh shit, the Bears are about to do this, aren't they? It makes me so mad I didn't bet the Bears live after, or just the hedge won the money line or two, just take advantage of that big odds because they're just a team this year where they're able to make these magical comebacks. And like I said, their defense at first wasn't... I mean, Jordan Love had 323 and 4 touchdowns. I mean, their defense was not playing the best at first, but when they needed it most, their defense was able to get massive key stops, and then... Yeah, this is a massive win for the Bears. Like I said, now they play the Rams, and that's going to be your Sunday night game. Or I guess it's Sunday at 6:30, so your Sunday afternoon game. It's supposed to be really, really cold. We'll go over that a little bit more tomorrow when we break down the games for the divisional round. But massive, massive win for the Packers, for the Bears, who, albeit even though it was a massive win, they had 2 massive injuries, which, I'm trying to scroll to them. One of them was an offensive lineman who tore, I believe, his PCL, which is going to make him out for the season, obviously, and he's going to miss a lot of time at the beginning of the year. Here it is. Chicago. Johnson confirmed that linebacker T.J. Edwards, he had a non-contact injury. He got put in a leg cast. He had a fractured fibula, and he's going to be out for the remainder of the season as well. And then Ozzie Trapilo, he went down and he suffered a patella injury. That's what it was. So he's going to be out for the year. And also, it sounds like those patella injuries, especially for bigger guys, it's truly one of those things where, like, maybe he doesn't come back at all. Maybe he comes back, he's going to be a little bit worse than he was before. But it's like, that patella injury is a massive, massive serious injury. So especially with how late in the season the injury happened too, there's a chance he could miss all of next year. And it's, like I said, that could be a career-altering injury. So those were just 2 massive losses for the Bears in that game. But Ben Johnson's a guy to get back on something that's a little bit more positive. Shout out to the Bears fans and Bears fans in my life too. Happy for y'all, man. happy for the Bears fans because it's been forever that they've been kind of in the dumps and just led astray with hopes. And they've been one of the many teams, like kind of like the Lions were forever, where it's like if anything could go wrong for them to lose a game, it's going to go wrong. And yeah, it's not doing that anymore. Ben Johnson is coaching a great culture into him. The stuff with him and LaFleur at the end of the game, absolutely awesome. We need more rivalry and stuff in sports again. There's a lot of... It's just awesome. Just shows you real passion, shows you real care. I mean, and it's Packers-Bears. These teams shouldn't like each other. I mean, they do stuff behind the cameras. That's one thing. Obviously, who cares? I mean, it's whatever. I don't care about that, obviously, but I don't mind. I mean, it's whatever in general, honestly, but I love when teams are willing to show hatred and willing to be like, hey, I don't like you. But shout out to the Bears, man. Awesome win for them as they now move on to the divisional round, and we're looking at the 11-6 Chicago Bears, man. Who would have thought? Year 1 under Ben Johnson, they're able just to have this complete change. Felt like, too, that's something else that was crazy about the Bears game is, like, whenever they needed a big play, they got it. And that was just another thing that's just like, how do they keep doing this? like I said, I'm still kind of used to the Bears of old where you go into those games and Bears always seemingly find a way to lose, but now instead lately they've just been winning games, and now they move on to the divisional. All right, let's move on to Sunday. Won't lie. I wish I knew what this news was. It's around that time where we're supposed to potentially find out what it is, but so far I am not seeing much of anything. There's something that came out with Jordan Addison, which we can talk about in between all this real quick. Jordan, his legal team has already initiated an investigation, identified witnesses, and reviewing viability for a claim for a false arrest. Jordan Addison got arrested this weekend. Yeah, and they're working on, I guess, trying to figure out what's going on with that. But as of right now, like I said, nothing. That's not the news, I don't believe. But if it is, at least I read it out in case. But Bills win 27-24. This was Josh Allen does it again. He absolutely put the superhero cape on for this one. He is absolutely banged up going into these upcoming games. I wonder if they've come out with anything like official, but he definitely has something wrong with his finger. Gabe Davis ended up tearing his ACL, so he's going to be done for the year. Ooh, Jordan Poyer's going to be out too with a hamstring, which is a tough loss for the Bills. They're trying to hold on by dear life, but Josh Allen absolutely just put the team on his back in this game. I mean, you got 273 passing yards, he had 1 touchdown, he's 28 for 35. James Cook only had 46 rushing yards, so he was kind of bottled up. Oh, shit! Okay, so the big news, by the way, Mike Tomlin has informed the team that he plans to step away from coaching, meaning one of the greatest will take a break, according to Ian Rappaport. So that was the big news that was potentially being announced. Wow, that is actually kind of insane. So Harbaugh and Tomlin, we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute, but Harbaugh and Tomlin out of the North. Wow. But yeah, whoa, that is crazy. Yeah, we'll get into that a little bit. But Bills, they win 27-24. Josh Allen absolutely put the superhero cape on. He had 33 rushing yards on 11 rushes, but he was just doing anything he could to will this team to win. He had 2 rushing touchdowns on the ground. For the Jags, there's a really weird end-of-half play where somehow I didn't think they got the ball off, but apparently they did get the ball off. Bills were offside, so it led to this whole thing that took forever to figure out. They finally do figure it out. Cam Little missed the kick, so it's just like the most. I don't know how to describe it. One of the funniest things ever. Like, of course, we spent so much time trying to figure all this out just to give him the ball, and then he misses it anyway. It's like, of course. But going into halftime, it's 10-7. Very, very close game. You're sitting there with the Jags like, okay, hey, if they can just punch this through, they're going to be okay. Trevor Lawrence didn't play horrible. He only had 207 passing yards, but he had 2 massive turnovers. If you look at the stats, both these teams basically played very, very similar. But it then came down to... But yeah, I think, like I said, these teams were playing very, very close. Stats are very the same. It basically came down to turnovers and one massive play. There was a play where Trevor Lawrence was basically diving forward. His shin ended up being on the ground, and that was... in the first half. But yeah, it basically came down to turnovers, and then the biggest thing is there was a big play towards the end of the game where Josh Allen scored a touchdown with about a minute left after a massive push got him to that point. They scored a touchdown. Then literally it's like, all right, Trevor, here's your chance. You guys have a chance to win this game. It's 27-24. Just bring them down in the field goal range. Will be good. And first play threw a pick. And it was just like oh, shit, the game's over. And kind of sucked that's how it ended for Jags fans, I bet, but at the same time, it was a wild game. Just because it was back and forth for forever, and then ended up, like I said, it came down to the final moment, and then just like that, it's over. But the biggest thing is the Bills apparently saw in film all week that Trevor Lawrence liked to throw. It happened since they got Jacoby Myers, but they really love to throw over the middle and everything. So the Bills muddied up the middle of the field a lot more in this game, and sure enough, it paid off. They ended up beating the Jaguars. So after a 13-4 season, which was an amazing season for the Jaguars, don't get me wrong, really, really good season for the Jaguars. They shouldn't be disappointing themselves. This is just one of those years where it's like, what could have been, because this is one of those years where it seems like every 5 to 7 years, like that, it's just wide open for anyone to win the Super Bowl. And it felt like this was one of those years where, hey, anybody can truly win it. And for the Jags, that's just a heartbreaking loss. As for the Bills, awesome win for them. And I think that Josh Allen's going to have to carry him for the rest of the playoffs. I mean, their wide receiver room's really, really banged up still. It's Khalil Shakir and then a bunch of, I hate to say it, but basically just a bunch of guys around there. I mean, Brandon Cooks is okay, but he's at the tail end of his career. I mean, they just don't have that one superstar player, so it's going to be a lot of Josh Allen, a lot of James Cook going forward, but that's what the Bills have been all season, and seemingly has been working out for him. So can Josh Allen do it again? We'll have to see. He is really, really banged up, so going into next week, we're going to have to just check the poll, see what's going on with him, but man, that's going to be... They play a tough Denver defense, but I'd be lying to you if I said they couldn't get it done. That takes us into the next game, 49ers-Eagles. Wow. What a... Yeah, Eagles lose 19-23 to the 49ers. Shout out to Robert Saleh on that defense. They're on linebackers number 5, 6, 7, and 8, it feels like, and they're just finding ways to patch this defense together and get the job done. Jake Elliott missed an extra point. I think it tied him for the most extra points missed in NFL playoffs history, which is just crazy stat to see. You saw on the screen, it's like, oh, shit, I didn't... Because I remember him missing occasionally here and there, but just to see that, it's like, oh, wow, I didn't realize he was missing that much. Sheesh. But, I mean, obviously, it's only 6 times in how many playoff games, but... 23-19, Brock Purdy played okay. 262, 2-2. He did have 2 interceptions, which... One of them was kind of killer, the other one not so much. But I think the biggest thing was just like the Eagles' offense. And shout out to the 49ers. They were down. They scored 13 points in the fourth quarter and were able to rally a little bit. I mean, they scored the go-ahead touchdown to Christian McCaffrey, who had 2 touchdowns on the day. He absolutely went insane. I feel so bad for George Kittle. He ends up tearing his Achilles. And he's, I think, 32 now. So realistically, he'll be fully healthy again by 34. Because you got to think about it with how late he tore it. It's going to take him forever to get back next year. And by the time he does get back next year, is he going to be fully okay? We've seen with the quarterbacks now, with Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins, two seasons removed, they look a lot better. So if we had to guess, 2 seasons from now, Kittle might be a little bit more back to what he was. But that's a really tough injury, man. You got to feel for him. But I think the biggest story in this game, even though the 49ers were able to patch it together, managed to find a way to win, I think the biggest story is the Eagles. Offensively, you got to think the offensive coordinator Patullo is gone. Jalen Hurts, he just... Really weird, man. Really weird game for him. It's just been a really weird season for that offense in general. When it got announced that Lane Johnson wasn't playing, for me, that's like a... Oh, shit. So, it got flipped, actually, where Trent Williams got announced he was going to play. Lane Johnson, it gets announced he's not playing. So, immediately for me, that's like a... Oh, okay. So, that could be real issue because you know the stats when Lane Johnson doesn't play for the Eagles. And obviously it's not... It's just his Eagles offense, man. They just were bad all year long. They had moments where they were good. Like occasional flashes here and there, but for the most part, it was just really, really like piss poor offense where they would just kind of get ahead and then they would like fight their life away just to hold on to lead and not score again offensively. It seemed like something was off in the locker room all year. You kind of saw A.J. Brown and Nick Sirianni have that little thing on the sideline, and apparently they came out and said that they have a good relationship, so stuff like that's going to happen. But you watch the way he played the rest of the game. He just didn't seemingly respond. He didn't talk to the media either, which is just not the best look when you talk to them when you're having great games, but then you have bad games and you don't talk to them. I mean, it just adds fuel to the fire to the stuff the media is saying. But overall, man, I mean, this was a great game, though. I mean, still, regardless, it's not very fun to watch the Eagles. So, personally, for me, I'm kind of glad they're out of the playoffs just because offensively they were very vanilla all year long. I mean, it's the most basic of stuff. I think every pretty much analyst and TV personality pretty much called him out for it. I know for sure Dan Orlovsky has been on him all season about it because I've been hearing that on the Pat McAfee show. Just him just over and over again blasting about how vanilla it is. But then you watch it, and it's like, yeah, they don't use any emotions. And then something got brought to my attention today. I didn't really like... I'll admit, this is part of me just being a defensive lineman, just being, like, dense-headed. Didn't think about it, and it makes a lot of sense. You got to wonder why they didn't run any motions to a lot of that stuff. And you think about it's like, all these quarterbacks, like certain quarterbacks, like Peyton Manning had input. And by the way, I'm not comparing any of these guys to any of the other guys. So it's like, Peyton Manning had input in the offense. Eli Manning did. Phil Rivers did. I mean... Hell, this person was talking to, like, even Derek Carr had input in, like, this is what I like, this is what I don't like, this is what I want to do. You got to think about it. If they aren't running motion doing a lot of that stuff, maybe Jalen Hurts doesn't like it. Apparently there's stuff out there, maybe he just likes to see the full picture as it is. He doesn't want to do motion, change it up or anything, but it's like, kind of handicap yourself doing that. And then you look at all the stuff that happens and all the fallout from it. But you got to think they're probably going to move on from offensive coordinator. It's funny how this Eagles thing works. I mean, this is very similar to what happened basically 2 years ago before they made the Super Bowl run last year, where they got rid of the offensive coordinator, they bring in Kellen Moore, then the offense surges. But first, before that, Nick Sirianni took a job with the Colts. They bring in a new offensive coordinator. How what happened with them. They got rid of him, bring in Kellen Moore. Surge the Super Bowl, win it. He goes to get a new job. Then this year they bring in Patullo. He does bad. So now you got to look at it from the aspect of, does that mean that now we're going to see the Eagles get a new offensive coordinator and then back to the Super Bowl? Let's see. It's a really talented team. Apparently there's a massive dead cap hit for moving on from A.J. Brown, so that's going to be very interesting. But, I mean, shit, the 49ers figured out how to get rid of Ayuk. So if it really is bad enough, they will find a way to get rid of him. But I will say the big thing that's kind of crazy from this is the whole electromagnetic waves and everything that comes from there's a plant near Levi Stadium. I recommend people looking into that a little bit. I'll admit, I'm not the biggest conspiracy theorist. I understand, I'll admit some of the conspiracy theories, there's stuff where it's like, I could definitely see that happening. It's like, maybe I don't fully believe in it. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. But it's definitely one of those things where it's like, I don't see why it couldn't happen. There's definitely crazier things that have happened. Look at that electromagnetic thing when it comes to the stuff and all that, and you look at, apparently there's, dead trees near it, but then you look a little bit farther away, those trees are alive. It's very, very fascinating. And then you think about all the 49ers injuries and everything. It's like, it truly becomes like a, really makes you wonder. But finally, these last two games, I'll admit, these were kind of poopy games. Patriots win 16-13. So we'll briefly just kind of touch on the. I mean, shout out to the Patriots for winning and the Texans for winning their games. But 16-13, the Chargers offense. Marion Hampton was very, very limited. He only got 2 or 3 plays, and then they basically played Vidal the rest of the game. So it was very clear his ankle was just not right. They lost Joe Alt, who basically sounds like he basically did everything you could to your ankle. So he has a 4 or 5 month recovery. Should be good for the start of the season. Slater tore his knee or hurt his, what was it? I think he tore something in his knee or hurt his leg. He was out at the beginning of the year. All these injuries eventually piled up. Justin Herbert saw the thing with his hand, and I mean, Justin Herbert was just getting destroyed that game. The best way to describe it is the way I heard it multiple times today was they were literally scraping Justin Herbert off that field. And there was multiple hits where you just saw, there's one where he just gets blasted. You basically just see him lay there and be like, oh, fuck. Then he finally gets up and I felt bad for the dude, man. I heard somebody say they should have sat him because of how bad it was getting for just how destroyed he was, save his health for next season, which I don't blame them on that thought process, honestly, because he was getting destroyed in that game. He was taking some massive, massive shots, and it's just, obviously the fallout from this, Greg Roman was fired, the offensive line coach for the Chargers was fired, so there are obviously going to be some offensive change there. Jesse Minter is going to be curious to see if he ends up staying or not for them defensively. But as for the Patriots, this is a massive, massive win for a team that, yet again, is finding ways to win. Offensively, I'll admit, he did not play the bad. Shout out to Ramondre Stevenson. He actually played really, really well. But overall, Will Campbell didn't have the best of day. And then the guard next to him, I can't think of his name, didn't have the best of days. There was definitely a lot of clips. But Drake May, first half, kind of a little sketchy for him. Second half, he definitely settled in. You can see he was definitely felt a lot more comfortable and felt a lot more like Drake May. But the final game, Houston, they went 30-6 against the Steelers. I won't lie to you, I didn't mean to fall asleep during this game, but this game basically put me to sleep for 15 minutes. So there's a 15-minute gap. It's basically from I can't even tell you where it was at. Steelers just did not. They gave up 23 in the fourth quarter. One of those was 2 minutes ago. Rodgers threw a pick 6. But, I mean, the Texans' defense is just legit. I'll admit, I think I slightly overlooked them a bit. Just a bit. But, I mean, I'll admit, I do think there's going to be a bit of an overreaction to how well they played. Don't get me wrong. They played really, really good. But I also think the Steelers were very, very limited as an offense. And, man, if Tomlin's stepping away, you got to think Rodgers is probably done then, huh? Cam Hayward, he might be done. That's crazy he doesn't run it back for a 20th season just to make it a clean 20, but he just ends at 19. I mean, a lot of people were saying it was time, though, but the game that basically changed today was that defensive touchdown. There was a DK Metcalf dropped the touchdown chance, and then Kyrie Fairbairn kicked the field goal in the fourth quarter to go up 10-6, and that basically felt like I feel a lot of Steelers fans that I've heard from basically said that felt like the moment where it's like, I don't think we're going to be able to get him. And then, like 2 minutes later, they get a scoop and score touchdown. Woody Marks ran. I mean, the Steelers defense was walking down the run, then Woody Marks. 29th ranked rushing offense, by the way, the Texans. Woody Marks runs for 100 yards, ran absolutely all over him. Nick Chubb rushes well on the ground as well. I mean, almost 10 for 48. Woody Marks, like I said, ran all over him. I mean, it's just crazy. The biggest thing from this, obviously, is the changing of the tide. We'll have to see what Aaron Rodgers is going to do, but you got to think he might step away now. He talked about originally maybe doing it at the beginning of the season. I don't know if he's going to stay on the Steelers because if Tomlin was there, I definitely think Rodgers stays. They at least try to play one more year to finish it out, but this is all new uncharted territory if he's just going to be gone now. It's just like, wow. Before we get into college, I guess we might as well talk some NFL news just to go over. I mean, that Tomlin thing's crazy. We'll finish in that'll be the final thing we do before I jump into college, is we'll finally touch on that. We talked about the Bryce Young thing. We talked about the kickoff times for some of these games a little bit. So Seahawks and 49ers, they play Saturday at 8. Rams and Bears are Sunday at 6:30. Bills and Broncos are Saturday at 4. Texans and Patriots are Sunday at 3. So it'll be Bills-Broncos that leads into 49ers-Seahawks. Texans-Patriots leads into Rams-Bears. And that is our official schedule there. Eagles is going to be interesting to see what happens to them in their offseason. They're definitely going to fire their OC, but move-wise, it's going to be interesting to see what other moves they make. Nico Collins had a concussion against the Steelers, and with only 5 days of prep for a game now, you got to think he might not play for the Texans, which is going to be a massive loss for them. That is a huge, huge loss. Micah Parsons thinking he can return early from his torn ACL next season, which would be awesome for the Packers if he's able to do that. Mike McDaniel's interviewing with the Browns. A lot of interviews. I'm not going to go over all these interviews because coaches are basically interviewing everywhere. The Packers are expected to try to keep LaFleur on a new deal now. Now, the interesting thing is going to see is, like, do these sides come to an agreement on a deal, or is it one of those things where it's like, hey, Packers offer him this, he wants this, they won't give it to him, he goes away and goes elsewhere. But all indications support the signs of LaFleur's probably coming back and going to coach with them. George Kittle, we talked about him tearing his Achilles. Absolutely horrible, man. I feel so bad for him. I just feel so bad for him. That just sucks. But past that, I think we're all good. X-rays for Matt Stafford came back negative, so he should be all good. Yeah, I don't think there's any other news things we really need to catch up on as of right now. Apparently this came out that the Ravens owner fired Harbaugh over the phone, which if that's the case, absolutely kind of dirty way to do a guy who's been with your franchise for forever. But we'll see. I don't know how true that is, so that came out a couple days ago, but yeah, first off, crazy that Zach Taylor's the only one not fired this offseason, and that's simply because the Bengals are cheap. I mean, he's the only guy out of all these guys that got fired, he for sure should have got fired, and so somehow he's still kind of there, but we'll have to see. I mean, Joe Burrow does go to bat for him, but this Tomlin thing is absolutely crazy. 19 seasons, never had a losing season with the Steelers. He said he's stepping down. I'm curious to see if he's going to take a break this year, if he's going to immediately jump into another coaching gig. Obviously, he's going to be, if he doesn't take a coaching gig, he's either going to be on TV or won't be shocked. He could be the coach that ends up on the Pat McAfee show, because every year a coach ends up on that show, and then the very next year they're coaching again, which, who was it last year? I can't. Chuck Pagano ends up doing some stuff. Now this year they have Mike McCarthy. His name's being floated around. Sounds like he's going to get back into football, but sounds like it's either going to be media or a new team for Tomlin. 100% any team would want him. I mean, hell, I'd probably want him at the Colts. He proves that he's a winner. But I also like Shane Steichen. It would be a perfect world. Tomlin gets hired, moves Shane Steichen to OC, but that's not going to happen. And like I said, I like Shane Steichen. It's just Tomlin's a winner. 19 years of proven winner. It's just crazy that he's out in the market now. I mean, like I said, a lot of people said it probably was time. It's been a long time, but still just crazy that it actually happened. Because it's one of those things where it's one thing when people say it, but it's another thing when it actually happens. So it's just. I just don't even have enough words to describe how wild it is. It's actually here. But that's enough on the NFL. Let's go to college to end it. Kind of talk about some of these games to end it. Miami, they went 31-27 against Ole Miss. Truly, this game should have been a blowout, but Ole Miss was just able to hang into it because Miami just kept shooting themselves in the foot. Horribly timed penalties. Just bad snaps that make waste downs. It's anything you could really think of where Miami, I mean, Carson Beck even had an interception as well, but anything you could think of to shoot themselves in the foot, it's kind of what they did. Mark Fletcher, shout out to him. He absolutely was just running all over. Ole Miss, sorry, I don't know why it took me so long to think of that. Kevon Lacey had a 73-yard touchdown, which was just an absolutely awesome run where he started to slow down a bit, and then you saw him pick it up back into gear, and apparently when he did that, it seems like he might have pulled his hamstring because it sounds like they did a lot of work on his hamstring after that, and he didn't play as much as he probably should have past that point, which just tough for them, but it sounds like he's going to be coming back next year, which is awesome. Trinidad Chandler is fighting to get his 6th year back to maybe play at Ole Miss again, but like I said, Miami just dominated the game. You look at overall, I mean, 28 first downs to 23, 11 of 19 on third down to 2 of 10 for Ole Miss. So they didn't get off the field, and they forced Ole Miss off the field. 2 for 2 on fourth down was the Hurricanes. I mean, you just look at everywhere, 459 total yards. I mean, they just, everywhere you looked. I mean, the only place they really lost is they threw an interception and they got sacked 4 times to 1. But the biggest thing, time of possession, 41-22 to 18-38. I mean, the first 2 or 3 possessions set the tone. They just got the ball, and they just held it. Made sure that defense stayed out there, held the ball. And that was basically what ended up doing Ole Miss in, is they just didn't have enough chances to get the score. And shout out to Miami, man. And it's wild to think that Mario Cristobal has a chance to win the national title before he wins the ACC, because that ACC, wild how Miami didn't represent them in the title game. But now they're in the national title game, and they're going to be taking on Indiana. Who would have thought we'd be here now where we're saying the Indiana Hoosiers are going to play in the national title game for a chance to go 16-0. Doesn't feel real. I mean, genuinely does not feel real to say that these past 2 years for Indiana has just been absolutely insane. Been an awesome ride to be a part of. We've been riding along with them basically since Kurt Cignetti got hired. So we got to the parts where there's still nobody in the stands, nobody really believing, to now we're at the highest of highs where it's like, hey, we're 1 game away. And I'm excited. I have Indiana to win the national championship. I have that parlayed with Pittsburgh to lose in the wild card, which we did that like 3 or 4 weeks ago. Shout out. So we had that soloed, and then we parlayed Indiana and that together. Which, yeah, it's poor Steelers, but I think we kind of called it. And I don't think a lot of people are shocked. The Steelers have now lost 7 straight playoff games. But Indiana, they have a chance to do something historic that has never been done before, obviously, by them. And 56-22, I mean, the game literally started out, first play of the game, D'Angelo Pond's pick 6. I mean, that is probably one of the loudest stadiums I think I've ever heard. That got me, I won't even lie to you. I wasn't even like a fan. I wasn't even a fan of IU in that moment. I was just a fan of football. Like, first play of the game, so it's basically like, all right, like, I'll admit, I ate dinner right before this, so it's like one of those things where it's like, game was kind of on, it's like, I was doing some stuff, it's like, all right. So we've been sitting now for, I'd say, like, a minute or two, where it's like, all right, let's lock into the game, let's enjoy this, and first play is picked. It's like, I jumped out of my seat, I was actually yelling, it was like, oh, shit! It was insane. Like, just watch first play of the game, and so that, they just, right after that, Oregon's able to answer back a little bit, and then it's just, IU. I mean, that defense just put him in absolute hell all game long. Dante Moore was under pressure all game. He got sacked a lot. There's a lot of fumbles. It just felt like anything that could go wrong for Oregon did. Fernando Mendoza has more, I don't know why I said it like that. He has more passing touchdowns than he does incompletions at this point. 8 touchdowns, 5 incompletions between the whole playoffs. And, yeah, shout out to Oregon. They just couldn't compete. I mean, they showed up, but they just were not ready for this sledgehammer that is just Indiana Hoosiers. Wow. It's just special, man. It's truly special to think that Indiana has a chance to win the national championship. And they were 7.5-point favorites, as they probably should be. But think about it. If they win a national championship, Indiana they went on a run of beating Ohio State, Alabama, Oregon, and then Miami to end it. I mean, I understand their schedule wasn't the hard. I mean, they would beat Oregon twice, by the way, in the season. But I understand the schedule maybe it was not the hardest, but you go down that stretch of teams, I think that's one of the best runs in like college football history. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to be here saying, like, they're definitely better than the 2019 LSU team. They're all this, all that. I just think this is potentially, like, one of the greatest teams in college football history that we are witnessing. And even if not, I think for sure it's, like, the greatest story. If they win a national championship, this will be the greatest, arguably the greatest thing in sports history, but for sure one of the greatest things in college football history, because you're talking about a team that was losing its programs in their history. In the history of college football, this was the losingest program, and they're one game away from the national championship after being undefeated. I want to see if I can quickly find the stat. If I can't, I'm going to just sum it up for everybody. It is absolutely insane. It's an Indiana stat for, like, them winning. It basically comes down to, let me get, like, 30 more seconds. 30 is way too long. Give me, like, 20 seconds. If I don't see it, we'll let it go. It's basically a stat of, I don't see it, but I really wish I saved it. But basically a stat about Indiana where it's like, I think for the next, like, 12 seasons, if they went undefeated, and then that 13th season, they went like 6-0 to start, they'd be at 500. That's how many games they're under 500, and we're talking about this team potentially winning the national championship. Wild, man. Wild. Shout out to the Hoosiers, baby. That is just absolutely awesome. Thank y'all for watching. Thanks for the support. Really do appreciate it. What a wild episode. Literally live in this episode, Mike Tomlin steps down. And, yeah, what a wild card weekend. I'll be back in this feed Wednesday. We'll go over my bets for the NFL divisional round. We'll probably talk bets for the national championship, I guess, as well, because you won't be seeing me back in this feed until after the game. Man, it's just crazy. Yeah, football's basically this is the peak of its power where it's the most exciting, and it's just sad because when we're here, that also means it's really close to being gone. After Monday, college football is officially over. I mean, fantasy football's already came and went. That's what, like, college football's about to be done, and then after these divisional game weekends, we're going to have 2 games left. We have 4 games this weekend. We're down to 4 games, 2 games and 1. 8 total games counting college football and NFL is all we have left in the season. We got to enjoy it, man. So thank you all for watching. I'll see everyone back in this feed to go over my bets, breakdowns for the games, stuff I'm projecting, all that fun jazz.